fishermen in the Mediterranean hauled in a strange creature. It looked like it might break free from the net at any moment. The captain immediately sensed something was wrong. He ordered someone to bring a shotgun. Little did they know, that single shot would ignite a war between humans and the sea. Soon, the military secretly bought the strange corpse. It was transported away by helicopter. They also completely sealed off hundreds of kilometers of ocean. After conducting a very detailed study, they finally began to understand the creature's mysterious origins. According to descriptions found in some ancient texts, this being was actually the legendary water people. But with so very little information ever recorded about them, the team couldn't even determine the specimen's gender. However, on its neck, a sharp-eyed biologist noticed a single pearl. It seemed to function like an ID card would for us humans. It must contain a wealth of biological genetic information, but human technology was limited. They could only detect some basic calcium carbonate. Realizing another advanced civilization might exist underwater, the general wisely ordered the pearl returned to its original place. He also gave orders for the body to be secretly preserved. Just before they were about to leave, while looking at the water person suspended up in midair, Danny felt a sudden and sharp pang of pity. But given his relatively low rank in the team, he could only silently make a prayer gesture, as a sign of respect for the deceased. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the general quickly set up an investigation team. They began scanning the nearby waters. His goal was to find the water people's lair, then establish diplomatic contact, to solidify his nation's global dominance. In order to achieve this ambitious goal, he'd secretly had a team develop a language translation system. They sent a message into the deep, though they received no reply yet. Humans were certain the water people got their greeting. Now, they just had to wait, unaware that a huge crisis was approaching. That very night, the two guards on duty were at their post. They thought an accident was unlikely under such tight security. But as one man relaxed after pouring tea, the moment he turned around, the ground beneath them turned soft. The sudden change stunned them. Before they knew what was happening, the situation grew even stranger. The woman reached for her radio to call for help, but the ground gave way. Her partner tried to pull her out, but he just couldn't quite reach her, and she just kept sinking deeper and deeper. Realizing the danger, the man radioed for backup. As the alarm began to blare loudly, soldiers immediately rushed over to the scene. But in just a mere matter of seconds, the two guards and the water person's body had vanished. With no other choice, the general tried to radio the soldiers. There was absolutely no answer. Only static came through. Strangely enough, the signal seemed to come from underground. The general knelt and put his ear to the ground. He called out the names of the two soldiers. When his own voice echoed back from deep below, his suspicions were confirmed. In just the few short days since trying to contact the water people, lives had already been tragically lost. This was all very hard for Danny to accept. He was just a lowly clerk, but HR had messed up his name. He got assigned to a joint task force as an agent, transferred to investigate unnatural beings. The general thought he might be heaven-sent. He urged Danny to make the best of it, to make his mark here. According to his colleague Anna, their unit had been studying these beings. The water people predated humanity. Back then, there was no land. The entire earth was covered by one vast ocean. Then, for reasons still unknown, they fell into a deep slumber. As underwater volcanoes erupted, land emerged and covered the earth. Humans, evolved from apes, became dominant. Now, the water people's awakening would inevitably lead to a struggle for living space. An epic war was looming. Unsure of their capabilities, humans still hoped for a peaceful resolution. To prevent public panic, the military and an intelligence task force would cooperate. Given the mission's classified nature, everyone involved was committed for the long haul. Danny felt helpless. He knew backing out now was impossible. As he stood there, worried, the base alarm sounded again. Technicians had spotted a strange lifeform on the coast. If their guess was right, this was an envoy sent by the water people. Remembering how they could turn solid ground to mud, the general was tense. But since it showed itself, it must want to communicate. He ordered the technicians to calibrate the machine. Not wanting to miss this chance, the technicians quickly adjusted the device. They translated the general's words into the water people's language. The system wasn't perfect, so they kept it to key points. They sincerely expressed that humans meant no harm. They hoped for deeper communication. The envoy seemed to agree. Just as humans thought the talks would go smoothly, the envoy's tone suddenly changed. It made an unexpected demand. The general was stunned. He wanted to ask why, but before he could speak, every soldier's phone flashed red. Water people were appearing simultaneously all over the world. This showed they could control all bodies of water, and if they wished, they could cut off humanity's freshwater supply at any time. This display of power in the water shifted the balance of the negotiation, or rather, they were using force to make humans submit. In the blink of an eye, videos of the water people flooded social media. Mass panic ensued among the global population. To hasten peace talks, humans removed all fish from their diets. No one knew if eating fish was illegal in their culture. Since their city was the first point of contact, they were tasked with the first talks. They even spent a fortune building a hall by the sea. A special passage was built connecting to the deep ocean. Global anxiety was at its peak. No one knew if the water people would establish relations. The Prime Minister, however, was excited. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they could build a strong friendship, his nation would become the most powerful. As the hall was completed, seawater rushed in. A large glass tank in the center filled up. This was humanity's first formal meeting with them. It absolutely could not be allowed to fail. In just another instant, several blips appeared on the radar screen. The water people had entered the passage. Four guard-like water people came into view. Behind them were two catfish-like creatures. It seemed there were different types among them, but what surprised the humans the most was the final envoy who made her entrance. She had distinctly female characteristics, and was far more aesthetically pleasing to human eyes. Most astonishing of all to the people presental, she could survive out of water. She said they had learned all human languages in recent days. This meant their intelligence far surpassed humanity's. David looked extremely uneasy, but he had no choice but to press on with pleasantries, claiming to make amends for killing their kin. He offered a gift on behalf of humanity, a snow rhododendron from the Himalayas. It came from the highest point on Earth. Surely, it would be precious to them. But the envoy's expression didn't change. She said she had brought gifts too. With that, her guards threw down two nets. Inside the nets were two strange, golden-colored eggs. Her intentions were clearly not friendly. In the crisis, humans quickly explained. They admitted their fault and apologized. But for the sake of peaceful coexistence, they hoped to set aside the past in talk. The envoy remained completely unimpressed. She declared she would only negotiate with one specific person. Everyone in the room was utterly confused. Even Danny himself was puzzled. He wasn't like David, well-versed in multiple languages and psychology. Why was he chosen as the human representative? The reason was actually quite simple. When Danny saw the dead water person, he was the only one who made a prayer gesture. They saw in him the respect due to a living being. Facing this tense standoff, Danny had no choice but to accept.